What do you want to look for in your new parrot to see how your parrot is, especially if you didn't get a baby? Hi, I'm Caitlin, the author of The Parrot Bliss Bond, and in this video, my golden conure, or Queen of Bavaria, Binks, and I are going to try not to eat my necklace as we, I hope, answer a question. I'm not super clear on the question. I think I'm just not receiving it real well. But I think the question basically is kind of like, what do you look for if you have a new baby? So there's a couple things to look for. One challenge with parrots is the age is almost impossible. My rescue golden conure had all his feathers, which is a rare, I think, in a way, thing for golden conures, because they're so prone to getting bored and plucking. So if you're adopting a parrot and it's not plucked, that's always a good sign. If it has pin feathers, this is based on my own opinion. I haven't consulted with any of my experts, but if your parrot has pin feathers, I think that's a really good sign, because pin feathers actually require a lot of calcium. And sorry, let me back up. A pin feather is like a porcupine quill that comes out on a parrot who's trying to eat my necklace when they're growing new feathers. A parrot will never be completely bald unless they have plucked. In other words, if they molt or lose some of their old feathers, the way you and I lose hair every day but gain and grow hair every day, then just like us, you'll never really be able to tell. You'll notice that there's more feathers around their cage when they're molting, usually about once a year, maybe twice, depending on the size of the parrot, and many other factors, how cold it is and their nutrition. But then, as they molt, they will still have feathers. So if your parrot that you've adopted has feathers, has pin feathers, to me that's a really good sign. Like I said, pin feathers require a lot of calcium, and I think it takes their bodies a lot to grow pin feathers, sprout them out, and that kind of thing. They do have to be in at least some sort of good shape, good healthy shape, I think. Again, I haven't consulted with my experts. So those are some good things to look for. A golden conure specifically, like some other parrots, will have colors until they are no longer juvenile. With the golden conure, it's the green. Do you see some of the green? Not on the flight feathers. Those are permanent, but Binks has some green in his tail and some green up in his head. There, you can see it a little better. That says this is still a youngster. They will keep that until about 2 years. There are other parrots like that will turn colors. Their feathers will turn colors when they are reaching maturity. And that is one pretty good indicator of age. But other than that, it's really hard to tell a parrot's age. If you have an older parrot, for example, the way my other golden conure was, it's just really hard to tell. My other golden conure, like I was saying, didn't have feathers plucked. So I thought that he wasn't in bad shape, but he was a rescue. I was trying to get him out of a really bad situation. I did. And unfortunately, I think he was older because his liver and his kidneys weren't in good shape. And, that's the end of that story, very sadly. But at least I really gave him a much more decent, loving last month. So, now, cockatiels, for example, their feathers are going to change, and the underside of their feathers over here are going to look differently depending on whether they're male or female. There's other parrots where, like my caped parrots, where they're going to have coloring on their head when they're juveniles, and the females are going to keep that beautiful salmon coloring. The males are going to shed it, and they're just going to have like this beautiful color that just matches the rest of their head, the back of their head, and kind of like their neck, that kind of thing. So it depends on the bird. So that's feathers. You want to look at some easy things like nose and eyes and their mouth. If they're kind of goopy, if they've got, think about a kid that gets sent to school that's really got a cold and his nose is running and his eyes are watery and he's like, if your bird looks like that, if their orifices aren't clean, that's an indicator that they might have something. Another thing that you can look at is their vent area. The vent area is going to be right down here, where, if you don't know, parrots just have one vent or one hole out of which comes everything: poop, pee, eggs. So they're three-part poop, pee, and I forget the name, the ultrates come out of that one hole, but somehow or another they always keep those feathers around there clean. Not that they clean them, they just don't get dirty. So if they are dirty there, that's an indicator that they might have something wrong with them. The next thing I want you to look at is, as Binks is here, do you notice how perfectly still his feather is, or sorry, his tail is, and his body? If he was kind of shaking like that, it's not an easy thing to see, but that's another indicator. Of course, the very best thing to do is take a new bird that is new to you, whether it's a baby or a bird you're adopting, is to take it to an avian vet. If you have an avian vet, the thing is, your avian vet can do a gram stain, which is going to let them know if there's bacteria. They can also do a white blood cell count, which will let them know if the bird's body has an elevated white blood cell count, which means that the body is really responding to some sort of foreign thing. Another way of saying that is, if there's an elevated white blood cell count, there's an infection. You and I might call it a cold, and cold is kind of mild, but infection meaning that it could be anything kind of like from a cold to something more that's more serious that they're trying to fight kind of thing. So that's going to give your vet a real good indicator of, is the body like having to deal with anything, or does everything seem okay? Depending on how deeply you and your vet investigate, how deeply you look, your vet can also take blood and basically look at your parrot's organs. If they take a chemistry, they're going to be able to get a real good idea of the organs and how they're functioning. So taking your bird to the vet can give you a really a pretty darn good picture, not a perfect one, and your vet will probably tell you that. Not a perfect picture of their health, but a really good indicator of right here, right now. In other words, there are some diseases that parrots can get, like beak and feather disease, that I don't know that they would show on any of those tests. You have to actually test for beak and feather, and that, unfortunately, is a death sentence. Maybe wait, I take that back. I think some birds can be carriers, but generally speaking, it's not a good thing. So, and I don't want you to freak out about that. Apparently, my understanding from my experts is that I think 20, 30 years ago, it was far more common, and now in the U.S., it's not, like it never happens, but it's far less common. I think it's not a common occurrence at all whatsoever in a parrot that you're getting either from a breeder or a pet store kind of thing. So chances are that shouldn't be an issue. So I don't want you to freak out about that. I'm just bringing it up as an example of something that you could take your parrot to the vet for. Your vet might catch some symptoms that aren't really showing on a test yet. But your vet, my point is, your vet can get a pretty good picture of your parrot's health, just not a perfect picture. So those are some things that you can look for when it comes to trying to determine if there are any issues. And of course, you should also always watch your parrot's poop, because what's coming out of that vent can tell you if all systems are go or if the systems are a little off. And you can easily do a quick search on the internet to kind of get some key indicators about what you want to look for in those three kinds of poop, and with what's normal and what's going to go into, things that you want to watch. And if the poops keep staying that way, go to your vet, that kind of thing. Thank you for joining my new species here, which you think is a golden conure, but is really a necklace monster. Similar to the cookie monster, this monster eats necklaces. I think as do all parrots. If you have any questions about parrots, please be sure to comment below. Anything we can help you with. And Binks and I will catch you next time.